Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Black Army Radio again. And it is Friday. Actually, no, it's Thursday. Shit, I don't even know what day of the week it is,
Thursday.
Joel. I got so many kids and so much stuff happening that I can't remember shit anymore, I swear to God. How we doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing good. Enjoying the weather. Today was a little cooler. Didn't feel so much like summer. Supposed to cool off tomorrow, so I'm gonna enjoy
Dude,
the rest of the cold air while we still have it.
what a crazy, weird winter, bro. Or like if you can even call it a winter. It's just we think it's
Yeah,
shit. Like the ski resort here for
I
all of you
don't
guys out there. I live in like one of the ski havens on planet Earth. And we didn't even have the mountain open up to 100% this year. Not at all.
uh,
The entire season. Yeah. Hey, man, are you
my
sick of all
dad's
this
been out
winning
the
yet? Are you sick of all this
what was
winning
that?
yet? Are you sick of all
Oh
this
yeah,
winning yet?
we're really kicking ass. Winning. And then the war's
Dude, we're
over,
winning
but we're
we're
sending
winning everywhere, bro. It's just
yeah.
perpetual. I'm exhausted. I'm fucking exhausted. I'm so out of breath from winning perpetually as an American citizen and as a taxpayer.
I I just imagine how our troops feel if they're like, "We coming? We going. We coming? We going. The war's over. Boots
They
on the
know
ground.
more than
What's
we do.
happening, guys?" Fuck.
Fuck, they know
No,
more
I
than we do,
know.
man. I tell you what, I guarantee you, dude, there's
Uh,
boys that are staged fucking right around there right now, man. This shit's getting hot quick, quick. Tomorrow's our
yeah.
last. Tomorrow's the end of the deadline, homie. Tomorrow's the end of the 5-day deadline, I think. Hey, why don't you start us off with that super duper 35-minute weird press conference where Trump kind of walked through his asshole about 5 or 6 different times on what the hell's
So,
going on, dude?
so this is a press conference, and it's just a little synopsis. Let's call it Cliff Notes or notes of the press conference. And then I think this kind of goes with like there never was a plan. We don't really know what we're doing. We're kind of just like throwing shit out of the wall and seeing what fucking sticks. It's pretty funny. But this is the beginning of Trump's press conference. This is 3 minutes in. Trump tells reporter he wants a ceasefire. 2 minutes later, declares victory over Iran. 5 minutes later, announces we are sending Marines. 11 minutes or 6 minutes later, says we do not want a ceasefire. 4 minutes later, declares victory again. 1 minute later, says he'd like a ceasefire. He talks a little bit. This one's 8 minutes later. He says Iran is Iran is begging for a ceasefire. 4 minutes later, he says $500 oil is a good thing. 2 minutes later, he says he demands Iran to open the strait. 3 minutes later, he says, U.S. is not at war. And in the end of the press conference, he declares victory. It's like, what the
Dude,
fuck, man? Like
dude,
in one press conference.
You actually missed
Oh,
one,
what did I
which is great.
miss?
So it was in between a minute 12:07 and 12:08. So literally 1 minute he announced. So in 12:07 he announces we were sending Marines, and at 12:08 he says no boots on the ground.
Yeah, I
He
fucking
said that. He said so in between the announces we were sending Marines, and then 12:11 says we don't want a ceasefire, and in between that he says no boots on the ground.
it's, yeah, that's
I fucking
it's
love this.
so bonkers,
Dude, I tell you, if
man.
he was just a stand-up comedian, bro, if we weren't like
Yeah,
spending $100 billion a day and losing fucking soldiers and airmen and like shit, like it would just be a comedy, bro. It would just be a
yeah,
comedy.
it
You know
would
what I
be.
mean? I mean, you got to hand it to the guy when it comes to
I
that. That's for sure. And so,
well, and oh god, I wonder how like the people. It's funny when you watch the people behind him in these press conferences or next to him, and like they're making faces, like they're literally like, "Oh god, how am I going to talk herself out of this when I better just kiss his ass afterwards and say he's the best president ever because that's all I could do."
dude, I
Ugh.
feel like that's why Pete Hegseth and Caroline Leavitt are so aggressive and angry, like every single time they talk. Like Caroline Levitt's up there. She's like what, 23 years old? She's married to some 60-year-old dude,
Uh,
which is hilarious, whatever. But she's
yeah,
like 23
funny.
and she's like She's up there and she's so we got a couple Caroline Leavitt clips. You just can't like her aggression is pretty awesome. And then Pete Hegseth, you know, he's up there and he's like he's got the hand movements. He's got everything. He's always
He-
looking back at Trump kind of too, like over his shoulder. He'll look back at
yeah,
him just
like,
for a second. Like every 5 or 6 seconds, just for a second, just kind of looking back over, like, we good? We good? Okay. I'm gonna keep going. We good? I'm gonna keep going.
am I
We good?
doing
I'm gonna
okay,
keep going.
daddy? Am I okay, daddy? Am I
Yeah,
okay, daddy?
dude.
It's fucking
Dude, it's
funny.
hilarious. And like we're gonna play a Trump clip here about winning and about how nobody wants to be the leader of Iran right now because Iran is because the leaders are just getting smoked. And here's the thing, too. This is hilarious. Like they don't want to tell anybody who they're talking to because
No.
they know Israel's going to kill them.
Yep.
So they're not telling. They're like, you know what? We're talking to people. We're talking to significant people. We're talking to people that make decisions in Iran. They now make decisions in Iran because everybody else that made decisions in Iran is dead.
Right.
We can't tell you who they are. We can't tell you where they are because we don't want them to die. And it's like, well, who's going to kill them? Who's going to kill them? I thought we were the big dog. Are we the big brother or the little brother? Like,
Right.
who the fuck is funding who?
Right.
Oh, Israel's going to smoke them. Okay. And we can't stop Israel from smoking them because we're Israel's bitch. Forgot about that. Now it
Yeah.
makes a lot more sense.
The only thing that makes sense is the Mossad has a bunch of blackmail on American politicians, and this is how they're saying like, "Oh, we used you for your bombs for 10 years, but now we need the real fucking thing, or we're letting the cat out of the bag." Like, it's the only thing that makes fucking sense, dude.
That's the only thing
I
that
don't
makes
know.
sense. We've talked about that stuff for sure. Because especially like less than a year before the midterm, he just came out. He's like at 30% approval right now. That whole 100% MAGA thing or whatever. They just had to, polls are so fucking whatever, dude. But I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
like I don't really trust shit with polls. I mean, you have to
Yeah.
say it. You have to talk about like whatever this poll says and that poll says, and this MAGA poll says this, and this fucking CNN poll says that, and blah blah blah. And who the hell knows anything about anything? Because in both of Trump's elections that he won, the polls were completely dicked up, right?
Right.
But I'll tell you what, man, I know a hell of a lot of dudes that voted for Trump that aren't fucking voting in this upcoming election, bro. And they're just
Yeah.
not voting. They're fucking out. Out. I'm one of them. Like I'm not voting Democrat. Goddamn sure not voting Republican either. Like
I mean,
I'm just gonna
join
do
the fucking
a
join the
libertarian
club,
vote
buddy.
across the board, dude. Is like a protest vote almost. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, they're not gonna fucking win anything, but it's like I'm not voting for a Republican, not voting for a Democrat.
Yeah.
So
Join the club, dude. That's
dude,
kind of
have you seen the Iranian I know you've seen them, but I'll tell you
yes.
what, dude, Iran has got a sense of humor, bro. They got a sense of humor over there, man, because, like, I don't think anybody if and you may be out there and you may not have seen any of these videos or these AI videos that Iran has put together that really is, like, mocking Trump and the White House and Israel openly. I mean, they're doing, like, AI Lego Man videos, like the Batman like the Batman Lego Man videos that were funny on YouTube? I don't know if you know it because I would show it to the kids and they would laugh their ass off.
Yeah, for sure.
And, like, they're doing Lego
It's
Trump and Benjamin Not Netanyahu, like, in the Situation Room videos.
like and it's like a thug rap song that makes some really good fucking points, and it's kinda like, "Oh, they kinda got you, man."
And every 5 seconds, there's, like, an Epstein list document or, like, file
Yeah.
or, like there's, like they, like, the ev like, they just kinda, like, sporadically throughout the video, just at, like, random points every 5 seconds-ish are putting something in there with Epstein and, like, internationally
Yeah.
sponsored child rape and pedophilia and that stuff. And it's like, dude, it's it's witty and it's kinda like I'm pretty surprised, man. I mean, that's I gotta hand it to him. I can't help but
Well,
laugh, dude.
and the crazy thing with all this, just in the times we are, and this is gonna, like, sidetrack a little bit, but there's that betting app where, like, people are betting we're betting on, like, if there's gonna be boots on the ground, like, people are literally and there's been some speculation to, like, Trump's cabinet people on Trump's cabinet voting because there was speculation about the war starting, and then a bunch of people, like, right before Trump dropped bombs, bet on the war starting that day, and then they, of course, hit big, but it's just the modern times. You have people betting on like which day the war is gonna fucking start, trading cryptocurrency, and then you have fucking the other country making an AI rap song with fucking Legos mocking the other country, dude. It's so fucking wild, man. What is
And they're doing it
happening in
like
this world?
yeah, and they're not doing it they're doing it literally every single time that Trump comes out and says that they have a deal or they're negotiating. And they're
Yep.
like that's their response. Their response is to mock him and to mock the entire administration and the Israeli administration. It's like they're not scared about that at all. It's it's kinda hilarious to me. It's just I don't know. It's ballsy for sure. It's definitely ballsy, and it's creative, and it's goddamn funny, like it or not, it just
Yeah.
is, and here's the thing, if
Yes.
Trump's a goddamn child rapist, I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't have any
Yeah.
sympathy for that prick. At this point, I definitely don't anyway, and so it's like, yeah, if we're governed by a pedophile, then call his ass I don't give a shit if it's our enemies, air fingers quote enemies, if that's what it is, calling us out or not. Like,
Yeah. That's
who
the
the fuck
fact.
who the fuck is defending a pedophile out there?
Yeah.
Like, hey, if you're defending a pedophile, like say something in the comments about why you're defending, like why you'd be willing to defend pedophiles. I don't know. I mean, like
Yeah.
all signs, like we said, best case scenario, FBI informant, worst case scenario, actual pedophile, middle of the road, complicit and didn't report, which is the
I
same thing as
mean,
going to jail anyway for being an accomplice.
and just somebody who ran a beauty pageant, who was around 13-year-old girls, openly makes comments about how he wish he could fuck his daughter, but he can't because she's his daughter. Like,
Isn't that weird, dude?
the
Like I got two daughters, man. I mean,
yeah,
I could
no,
never in
that's
a
so fucked
million
up.
years even joke about something. Like, I would not
No.
ever joke about something. I don't know, whatever. I think
Outside
I'm
of
gonna play
calling
a Trump video, man, because I think it's totally worth. It's talking about all the winning and it's talking about how nobody wants to be the leader of Iran anymore. Kind of like how we talked about. So rock and roll.
We settled 8 wars. People sort of forget that we're winning another one. I tell you, we're winning so big. Nobody's ever seen anything like we're doing in the Middle East with Iran. And they are negotiating, by the way, and they want to make a deal so badly, but they're afraid to say it because they figure they'll be killed by their own people. They're also afraid they'll be killed by us. There's never been a head of a country that wanted that job less than being the head of Iran.
So the peace president, eight, like we're talking about all the different what 8 wars or something, bombing deals. We
yeah.
bombed a shit ton of people, whatever. Um, but I mean, we're winning so much. There's so much winning. They want to negotiate, but we're not going to negotiate. But we're going to negotiate, but we're not going to negotiate. And they gave me a gift, a great gift, a wonderful gift. And we're not negotiating, but we're negotiating. And it's not a war, but it's a war. We're not going to have boots on the ground, but we're sending a bunch of Marines in the 82nd Airborne, and all the tiered elements are probably already there.
It's
It's the
it's
fucking
everything this
Twilight Zone,
fucking
man.
dude did everything he does. Like he just like the say this is going to be a quick sidetrack, but like the Save Act is all about not having mail-in voting. What did he do in Florida this last week? Mail-in voted. What has he done the
Melon
last
voted.
election? Mail-in voted. Like, and then
You
he
know what he
says, "Well, it's
said when they
because."
asked him about that?
Yeah, I was just going there. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, he's just like, I'm the president.
Yeah. He said,
He's just like,
and
I'm the
then he
president.
said
I
it.
do what I want. I can mail in vote, and I'll make it illegal for everybody else, but I'm the president.
Uh, and Mike Johnson was like, "Well, it's because Florida's good." And it's like, oh my god, man! Like, I don't the hypocrisy. And, like, kinda how I judge a man, and I'm not talking about fucking, like, not shutting the toilet or leaving the cap off the toothpaste, and, like, I'm talking about, like, if you're that big of a hypocrite, and if you tell me one thing and do another, and that becomes, like, a pattern, I'm gonna think less of you as a man. Like, my whole existence is about me not trying to be a hypocrite, and I'm not saying I'm imperfect to that happening, but when I am, I call myself the fuck out and be like, "Okay." either you need to change how you think about this and not say what you say, or you need to practice what you fucking preach, you know? And the ability for Trump not to do that is drives me crazy from my like principle as what a man should fucking be.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but when Trump wakes up in the morning, he pisses excellence. So he's not
Uh,
whatever realm you're in, Joel, whatever worldly human realm you're in, like he's wearing his person suit from where the fuck he's from. You ever feel like
and I
you ever feel like we're just one bombing campaign away from world peace? We're just one, we're just one bombing just one more country, man. Just one more leader, just one more Israeli strike, just one more bomb. They're like fucking crack addicts. They're like crack, right?
right.
It's like we just do this one thing, it'll be perfect. If we just kill these people, it'll be perfect. Well, they weren't the right people. Sorry, we killed them, but we have to kill these ones over here too, and then we got to kill these people over here too, and then we got to change the leadership up. As soon as we do this shit, we're done. Or it's over. It's fucking world peace forever, forever and ever and ever. I mean, they're literally like crack addicts, man. They can't help themselves. They can't fucking stop. They just can't. It's just one more bombing campaign, just one more country, just one more leader.
And it's the fucking these are just decisions they make. Like there's no accountability to it. There's no the George Bush's war on, weapons of mass destruction and all that shit. Like that was proven to be false. There was no accountability held against that. And I'm not saying there wasn't some good outcomes and some leaders in that time like fell, but how much money was spent and we lost, and like it's the people who get fucked is middle class America,
You know the
and we
Trump that I miss,
continue.
dude? The 2016, like, WWE fucking Republican convention, like, there's 15 Republican Jeb Bush is up there, and Trump looks at him and he's like, "Your brother lied us into a fucking war, and your brother cost the life of thousands of Americans, and your brother fucking cost us trillions and trillions of dollars and bankrupt this country." That's the guy I thought, you know what I mean? And I'm an idiot, obviously. I'm obviously an idiot. I'm willing to say that I'm fucking retarded for sure. But it's like,
But that
at
was
least the rhetoric, man, I missed that. Like that's why that dude got the support he did. Was literally
well,
because of that fucking convention.
and he was kind of like fucked and this is where like, I mean, corporate America, capitalism, like it's such a slippery slope because like I don't want I don't necessarily want a politician running our country, but like the whole thing is like a businessman. Like maybe if it was the CEO of Patagonia who's always paid his employees and like he's only making, I think he makes like the percentage of money what his employee makes, he's only making like 25 or 35 more percent than the highest paid employee on his thing. And this is when I looked up at the company in like 2000, like the 2010 sphere. I don't know what they're doing now, but like the business has always been cutthroat and about making money. And if you got to fuck some people over on the way, that's what a businessman does. Me and my business partner, Aaron, um, we partnered with this company
I
and it
love you, Aaron.
kind of felt, yeah, I haven't talked to him in a while. We need to catch up. He's probably heard my voice more on the podcast than we've talked on the phone. But
You're such a bad friend. Jesus.
oh, I call him. I call him. Trust me.
He's
No,
terrible.
but
Are you kidding me? That guy is the worst at getting a hold. Like, whatever. That guy is the worst at getting a hold. Like, I send that guy 17 Facebook messages and I'll get like a thumbs up. I love you,
Aaron's
Aaron.
gonna catch his podcast and he's gonna be like, "Why the fuck you guys shitting on me?" No, but we met this business partner and we had a contract pretty much contingent on the raise of money. So if the money was raised, we'd partner up with this company. And he was kind of cutthroat. We never saw proof in some of the stuff he was saying, so I don't know if he was lying because we did a lot of talking on the phone. We met at SHOT Show And that's where the relationship was formed. And then after that, most of the stuff was talking on the phone or meeting with an investor at like Newport Beach or something. But
For those of you who may not
this
know,
guy,
Joel and Aaron Warner, who was a Ranger Battalion contractor, knew the dude pretty personally for a long time, lives around here. Joel and Aaron came up with a not necessarily a different form of a safety for an AR-15, but a platform that where you could control it like as an instructor, right? Where you could shut down all the weapon systems, kind of like with a click.
right.
And so they've been working on this business model for a while, and they went to SHOT Show, and they had some people that were pretty interested in their product. And it's been, I know I talked to Aaron about this a little bit too. But anyway, just for so everybody that's listening understands what you're talking about regarding your business
Yeah.
adventure.
So some context, and it's building anything safety related in the gun world. It's a real slippery slope because half the people think you're there to like turn off their guns, and that was never the point. This was for training. But anyways, digressing
From
to
an instructor standpoint, from a firearms instructor standpoint, I can tell you right now, I totally understand what you guys were
yeah.
trying to accomplish. 100%. And I would have loved to have had that platform when every time that I was doing firearm instructions.
And so to digress, and that's a whole nother podcast in itself. But like the company and what that led to with guns and understanding mental health and this
But
whole
regarding
environment.
capitalism,
Yeah.
like getting back to
Rega-
capitalism,
yes,
like
thank
there is
you.
a huge difference between like Adam Smith, invisible hand of the market capitalism, and like Keynesian economics, which is where we're at right now,
Yes.
which is a capitalist system
Yes.
built on credit and borrowing. And so like the original
Well,
capitalist system has I think is a wildly fruitful system if it's done correctly. But the thing about it is there can't be any manipulation at all. You can't have winners and losers. Like the winners and losers have to be determined by the market and by the people and by commerce. 100%. And that's the Adam Smith model. That's the invisible hand of the market model. Okay. We don't run that model. Our model was built on that model, but it changed to a Keynesian economic model. And that model kind of like went like when we dropped the gold standard, is kind of like when we switched to the Keynesian economic model, where we were built on credit and borrowing. And that's when our national debt started to slowly build, right? And then the dollar wasn't backed by anything hard. There's no hard currency backing the dollar anymore. And so anyway, I'll let you get back to your point, but that's the reason why the capitalist system we have now when it comes to bailouts and like if you look at COVID, right, where they're like, these people are essential, these people aren't essential. That's a Keynesian economic model that kind of follows a Keynesian platform. And
well,
it's same thing with the bailouts, right? When we had that huge economic crash at the end of
yeah.
God, with what was that massive corporation that like screwed over just tens of thousands of people on their retirements and everything else. Anyway, whatever.
Right.
And then they started the bailouts and they bailed out all the banks and they bailed out the major industries, and then all the small businesses, just like in COVID, all failed because they picked winners and losers. And that's not an Adam Smith model of the invisible hand of the market. The original, so that's called The Wealth of Nations. Adam Smith wrote a book called The Wealth of Nations. And if you're really, really interested out there in what true capitalism looks like in its purest form, which we do not have in the United States in any way, shape, or form, we have a planned economy, in a lot of ways built around war. If you want to know what true capitalism looks like, you might want to read Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations. So go ahead.
Right. Well, and just tying back to, and like you said, we have our economy is based on borrowing, credit cards, loans. That's how our economy is based. So it's like this, and then like going back to the guy we met who was potentially a business partner, is he had a little bit of that like Donald Trump in him, where like he would talk big, maybe make you believe in something that you weren't sure. Like he would say big numbers, like in 2 years we would be, we could be $1 billion, and like
We're gonna scale. We're gonna
yeah,
scale up.
yeah, and then like you want to hear that as somebody who's giving money, but like it was something that me and Aaron were really uncomfortable because we're these wholesome kids from a small town in the mountains where we're like, yeah, we're going to do our best for you, and this is what we think we could do. And like, we wouldn't sell ourselves to the point where we felt like we were lying. We would say, if we could do this, we'll do it for you. And that type of mentality, like in the business world, I think, I mean, it's great if you're running a cutthroat business, but for like I mean, I have a love hate relationship with capitalism, and especially like with like health. You can't have for profit healthcare, or companies wouldn't be making money.
How
Healthcare
about for profit prison
inherently,
systems?
yeah, like there's some
Exactly, right?
things where,
You're gonna
yeah, there's,
encourage incarceration of innocent
yeah,
people.
there's some things where I think capitalism isn't great, and we could still have social systems with a capitalistic economy, and that's where I think when I hate when someone says like, "Oh, I like healthcare," and they're like, "Oh, you fucking socialist," and I'm like,
I
dude,
know, right?
fucking like
Is
some of
it
the
more
biggest boons in our
socialist? Is it more socialist to use our money to provide health care for our people, or even student loan debt or whatever? And that's a huge hot button topic, right? I mean, even just
right,
saying that's going to get motherfuckers to turn off this podcast,
right.
and that's fine. But or is it better just to say, hey, we're going to take the 300, you know, $1 billion it would take to execute student loan forgiveness or health care, and we're going to give that $300 to Israel
Right.
to kill tens of thousands of fucking human beings, and that money is going to last a few months, and then we got to give them more. Like, is
Well,
that not a welfare program for an entire? We welfare out NATO, the United Nations. Um, what was that? The global warming international
oh,
foundation, where we bankrolled
yeah,
like 90% of that one. I can't remember it. I'm
right,
not saying the name right. All the aid that we've given Ukraine, Israel, everything else, that's fucking welfare, bro. It's international
right.
welfare. It's what it
Well,
is. Like, how is that
and
not a
like,
socialist thing? What's the difference than paying the fire department or the police department? You know what I mean? Or federal agencies. And it's like,
well, and when you
that's an international welfare program, dude. I would much rather that welfare money that's getting spent internationally get spent domestically.
and then when you're bailing out all these companies, we've done it time and time again with major car manufacturing companies. If it was a real capitalist system, another company would come and buy that company up, and they would change the model, make it work, or that company would dissolve. And and
Dude, if
then
it was
and
a
then
real
too, like,
capitalist system, Wells Fargo wouldn't exist anymore. Ford
yeah,
wouldn't
for
exist anymore.
100%. Yep.
Enron wouldn't exist anymore. I don't know if Enron exists, may not exist. But like
Well,
all that
and
stuff
then too,
wouldn't
like,
exist anymore because they were picked. They were picked
and
to exist.
and then peop and then we have welfare for all sorts of things. Like our farmers have welfare, and the sad fact is with our farmers is like the small farms and like family owned farms have gone down by such a high percentage that welfare is just going to these super farms who are ran by on Monsanto seeds, and they're just all tied into the system,
Dude,
and not to say some of that welfare doesn't trickle down to these small farms because they need it more than these big farms, but these big farms are the ones who are taking it, why they're getting a tax break from our fucking government, and that's the
yep.
crazy part. Like when those corporations get a tax break, you're supposed to be investing it back into your company. What happened this year? The Amazon, UPS, every corporation has laid more people off this year since COVID. And they're getting the biggest tax break they've had in a while. And what did they do? They didn't reinvest in their employees. They didn't get better health insurance. They fired a whole bunch of employees and bought back their fucking stock.
Well, a lot of
You
the times what
know?
they did with bailouts is they paid off their CEOs. They
Yeah.
paid off their CEOs and their higher people, and they laid off a shit ton of people after they got
No.
their their bailouts. It didn't help fucking normal people anyway.
No.
I mean, I cowboyed for my whole life, man. And like when I was in Montana after the army, my parents moved up there like basically when I turned 18, and I stayed in Colorado, went to school, and then 9/11 happened and blah blah blah. But when I got out of the army, I kind of relocated to Montana, and in between contracting and go to school, like I just spent my day-to-day cowboying, breaking horses, fucking working various ranches up there in the Big Hole area outside of Dillon, Montana. And the biggest I don't like there's a ranch out there called the Matador Ranch. and it's a huge. It takes you like if you're horseback, dude, it'll take you days to pass this son
Right.
of a bitch. It's sections, not acres. It's sections of land. You know what I mean?
Massive.
And
Yeah.
Coca-Cola owns that motherfucker. Coca-Cola. Like the biggest ranches like in
Surprised.
Montana and Texas and some of these other places are owned by giant corporations because they're a tax write-off. They use them as tax
Yeah,
write-off.
well, and speaking of tax write-off, like, so there is a big movement when I think it was one of the Democrats' term. I forget which term it was, but they made this carbon kickback. So if you had land that had a certain amount of tree density on it, you would get a carbon kickback, so you could write off that land. So everyone is like, "Oh, that's a cool thing. That's great for everybody." Only if you had 10,000 acres. So what happens? Bill Gates goes and buys up. I mean, Bill Gates is one of the biggest landowners in America right now as far
He's
as
a huge
acreage goes.
landowner. Huge, yep.
And so that was under the guise of being good for the environment, but it didn't help and helping people out. But me and you can't afford 10,000 acres anywhere.
Nope.
You
I can't
know,
afford
like I
35 acres where I live, dude, or
no,
else we'd be on it right
that's
now.
what I'm saying. So once again, you're helping the population that needs a less help. You know, like the dude who could afford 10,000 acres doesn't need a write off on that land. And if he's smart anyways, just like Coca-Cola, King Creek Ranch up there in South Route, I worked up there for like 4 years. They have 20 horses, but they lease their land to a cattle rancher so they could get an ag write-off and not have to pay property taxes on it. That's one of the biggest um it's one of the bigger chunks of land ranches up there in South Route, and they're not paying anything on property tax. They're not fucking ranchers. They're a bunch of billionaires that have 7 ranch hands that get their fucking horses ready and cut their grass.
It'll be the same thing
You
with Ski
know?
Corps, right?
Yep,
Ski Corps
exactly.
does the same shit. They're worth
100%.
billions and billions and billions of dollars. They run all these ski towns, and they make the cost of living so unbearably high that people are living like 7 or 8 people, like grown ass men and women in their 30s and 40s that are like in the wintertime they're ski instructors and in the summertime they're raft guides, right? And they're
Yep.
living
And
like
they have
7 people to a fucking apartment room. I mean, it's crazy. Aspen, Steamboat, Telluride, you know, Big Sky, all these massive resort towns where you have Ski Corps that just eats it, just literally eats this community completely alive. Anyway,
well,
get back on
and then
topic. Go
yeah,
ahead. Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead. You want?
Okay,
Okay.
real quick with
Yeah,
the
do it.
ski corp thing, it's like, and they say something, they're going to do something altruistic, and they're like, oh, we'll give you $500,000 for a new firehouse. When I think it was Oak Creek or Yampa just got a write up for a bid for their new firehouse, and it was going to be like $10 million. You know, and it's like $500,000. You might be able to break fucking ground and get a foundation in, dude. Like, what
Nothing.
the
Yeah, it
fuck?
doesn't do shit. And like we had one of the things so we had like here in Stagecoach outside of Steamboat, they're gonna be doing Ski Corps. It's not ski, it's I can't remember the actual name of this company. It's a massive I should kick myself in the balls for not remembering this because it's all over the news here. But there's they want to do a secondary ski hill like in the Stagecoach area. And everybody's trying to kind of like I'm like, listen, they're gonna be here. Like, we can't stop them. They got massive businesses in like Dubai, the UAE, which is hilarious now because it's that whole place is fucking on fire right now, right? Because
Right.
Iran is just fucking it up over there. But we're like, hey man, like build us a school. You guys want to build some goodwill towards the community, like build us a brand new high school because South Route Oak Creek High School is like the Compton and Watts of Route County, Colorado. You know what I'm saying? Poor
Yeah.
as shit. And so it's like, anyway, besides the point, but there's like a little bit of give and take with that kind of stuff. If you could figure out a way to weaponize that for the community, like you said, the $10 million things, but that's not going to cover shit for what they actually need to do.
No,
You know what I mean?
no,
Not
that's
here
like
locally. And
no,
all the
not
just
even
so you
close.
guys know out there, if you're doing footers for a house, they're got to go 4 feet deep. That's how deep the goddamn frost line is where I live. 4 feet deep footers. So you got to think about how much concrete that is, how much excavation that is. When you're breaking ground, that costs a shit ton of extra money to do anything around here. So like we really, really, really feel it. So what was Iran? We're 35 minutes into this bitch, and we're gonna kind of like come back to the original clip that we talked about, which is great. That's what this whole thing's about, man.
Yeah. Squirrel.
And so Iran's military spokesman, Lieutenant Colonel, I'm totally gonna dick this up, Lieutenant Colonel Ebrahim Zolfaqari dismissed U.S. claims of ongoing ceasefire talks. So they just came out with this statement, and this statement's kind of hard hitting, brother. I got to hand it to them. Okay. So this is verbatim quote from Lieutenant Colonel Ebrahim Zolfaqari from the Iranian military. Quote, the American side is negotiating with itself. Has your inner struggle reached the point where you're negotiating with yourself? A superpower that claims to be the leader of the world is facing a resounding strategic defeat. Do not dress up your defeat as agreement. Stability in this region is guaranteed by our armed forces, not yours, and it will not return to the previous state until the very idea of taking action against the Iranian nation is completely erased. End quote. That's pretty interesting to me because just like them coming up with those AI cartoon videos where they're just mocking the shit out of Israel and the United States.
Right.
That's a ballsy statement, bro. I mean, that's basically a statement being like, hey, I know what you're telling your people. You're telling your people all kinds of stuff. We have the fucking same TVs and internets that you do. So we see that shit.
Right.
And that's not at all what's happening. At all. And we're going to get into more interesting stuff because this stuff is escalating quickly, real fast. What do you think about that statement, Joel?
I mean, I think it just goes back to like the one day he says we're having a ceasefire, there is no war, the war is over, and we're getting two totally different sets of news, and if you're finding any of the world news, if you're not watching CNN or Fox News and you're getting real reporting on this, at best this is 25% of what they say it really is, and it's 75% a fucking shit show, and not only it's weakening any relationship we had with Saudi Arabia, the UAE.
Dude, everybody, bro. South Korea. South Korea.
I mean, it's
fucking South Korea has nothing to do with the Middle East. We took all of our goddamn interceptors out of that place. What's the first thing North Korea does? Launch missiles over Japan.
Yeah, it's fucking.
Dude, we're gonna go with Iran. We talked about goddamn the United States, right? What was our we had three basic. So when we said that our non-negotiables, no nuclear weapons, which is just like Jesus Christ, this fucking shit again.
Right.
No ballistic missiles, which is a complete non-starter, and then no proxies. Proxies are like funding Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, stuff like that. Okay, that's our demands. That's America's demands. Okay, what's Iran's demands? They got 5 demands, and since we're in an agreement with them, that's kind of interesting because I just told you what our demands were, which was no nuclear development, no ballistic missiles program, no funding of proxies. Okay. What are the 5 Iranian conditions for ending the war? Number 1, a complete cessation of aggression and assassination operations by Israel and the United States. So no more aggression or assassination operations. Iran has had a hell of a lot of people assassinated. Number 2, establishment of concrete binding mechanisms to ensure the war will not reoccur. Operation Midnight Hammer, anybody? I mean, like, right? It's kind of perpetual with Iran. Number 3, guaranteed compensation for damages. Number 3, guaranteed compensation for damages and costs incurred in what Tehran calls an imposed war, as if, because they didn't attack first. What they're actually asking for is $100 billion. $100 billion in concessions. That's the hard number. Number 4, the truce must apply to all fronts and affiliated, quote, resistance groups across the region. So this includes Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, which directly contradicts stipulation number 3 from the United States, which is proxies. That's a direct contradiction of that one. Number 5, recognition of Iran's legal right to control the Strait of Hormuz. Recognition of Iran's legal right to control the Strait of Hormuz, which it means oil, fertilizer, microchips. I'm missing about 10 other things that comes through the Strait of Hormuz that are wildly important to the entire world. So those are Iran's 5 points that they're like, if these points aren't met, we're not in agreement and we're not negotiating. Sounds a hell of a lot different than the White House points, don't you think? A little bit different?
Yeah. And it's funny too, because Trump was talking, I think it was today, it might have been yesterday, it was one of his latest press conference, and he was going back and forth if the war was going on or if it was not. And then he mentioned that they're letting ships through, and what he didn't mention that they're paying $2 million per ship, because that was part of Iran's thing. If any ships are getting through here and they're an ally of yours,
and what are they
you're
trading
going to
in?
give us yen. It's not American money.
Not the dollar.
And that's the whole, and it's
So it's
and
$2
he
million
doesn't mention
per
that.
ship traded in the yen. And if you're like, who was it? Turkey, Pakistan, China, I think India, Russia. They don't have to.
So you're talking about,
They don't have to abide by those stipulations. So if you're like one of those countries, they're not paying you $2 million. They're not saying you have to have $2 million to come through. They'll let you through anyway. But you just have to trade in the Chinese yen. You can't use the American dollar.
And I saw a thing today where I need to do more research on it, and I'm not a economist or anything. This was something I saw.
You are now, Joel. You are now. You're a professional.
It was talking about how BRICS, and that's India. It's 5 countries: India, Russia, and
China, Pakistan, Turkey, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And what's happening right now is, because of all this, they're getting so empowered that our dollar being the world currency is so much closer than people realize of not being that. And then, like I said, once that happens, people stop taking our
loans,
our debt,
and they start backing they stop backing our debt.
And we're gonna be talking about 8, 12%, 13% interest rates if that happens. And the longer this war goes on, the closer and closer that happens. We are not empowering our country right now. We are spending money at an alarming rate that we don't have, and we're increasing the dollar of all these other countries.
Hey, did Trump run on decreasing national debt? Remind me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I'm the asshole. Did he run on not having wars?
Yep.
In the Middle East? I know I'm an asshole.
Yep.
And I'm a half retard. Hey man, let's do another video. We're going to do a Karoline Leavitt video, who is the White House press secretary.
But the president's preference is always peace. There does not need to be any more death and destruction. But if Iran fails to accept the reality of the current moment, if they fail to understand that they have been defeated militarily and will continue to be, President Trump will ensure they are hit harder than they have ever been hit before. President Trump does not bluff, and he is prepared to unleash hell. Iran should not miscalculate again.
Jesus Christ, man, all this winning is making my head spin.
Well, in like somewhere along the way, America became like the cocky dude who runs his mouth at the bar and gets fucking punched. You know, like we're like mom needs to come home or mom needs to come out and be like, "Hey, America, like you didn't start the last where you finished. Like get home." You know, like Jesus fucking Christ, dude. We're
Dude, what
we're
if
the
they
drunks.
So here's the thing, man. When we say it's like it's just one more, just need one more bombing campaign, bro.
Yeah.
One more country, one more dictator, bro. I'll be done. Just a little bit more, man. It'll be. Listen, what you know what they're saying now? Or actually, they've been saying this. They started saying this a few weeks ago. That Turkey's the new Iran.
Yeah, that's the next
Turkey's the
threat.
new Iran. Turkey's a fucking NATO country. A NATO country, bro. An attack on one is an attack on all, right? That's what NATO is supposed to represent. You put money into it. You have comparable weapon systems. You have comparable training, right? Everybody in NATO has like kind of like similar armaments, similar training, similar outcomes. So everybody kind of like can work together, train together, have the same tactics, the same maneuvers, the same desired outcomes. Like that's and a lot of that goes into the military industrial complex, because if we're running like the M4 carbine, for example, right? And that's the primary weapon system pretty much for the United States, because we're fucking NATO. Like, let's be honest, we fund it. Then that means that all the other NATO countries are running very, very similar weapon systems with very, very similar calibers, very, very similar training. Like they're that's what NATO is. And it's like to have Israel, which is like, listen, let's be real, dude. We're way more in Israel's pocket than any other NATO, like any NATO country or any other ally out there, including Great Britain, which is like put the boot to ass with us extensively over and over and over again. But dude, I mean, to say that Turkey's next, man, it's a never-ending hit. It's a never-ending. You're constantly taking these hits, dude. You got to keep taking these hits. When I
And
talk
they're
about
not
hits, I'm talking about crack.
and it's not our they're not our wars to fucking fight, man. Like if Israel can't do the shit without us. They can't defend themselves without us. If they didn't have our funding, our missiles, and our firepower, Iran would be done with this war all fucking ready.
You know,
Or a
I'm really
nuke would have been, or a nuke would have flown, or a nuke would have flown.
I
You
think
know, like one or
I
the
think the
other.
nuclear option is. Unfortunately, I think the nuclear option's on the table, man. I don't think it's on the table for the United States, but I think it's on the table for Israel, for sure. And so, like, the United States came up with I don't know what to think about this, because it's called the final blow, quotes. It's called the final blow. And I was just reading up on this today because it kind of just came out. And they're calling it the final blow. It's like, you think about like the surge in Iraq, right? The surge is going to end the war. Okay. This final blow thing in Iran is like, it's supposed to be like a crushing show of force that would force Iran to peace talk, to legitimate peace talks. Even though we're saying that they're doing peace talks and shit right now, which they're obviously not doing.
Yeah.
And so it's a 4-point plan. It's a 4-point plan, and it's super aggressive. It's boots on the ground. And we're going to get into something else. It reminds me a lot of Operation Rolling Thunder in Vietnam, which took place from like 1965 to 1968-ish, which kind of led to the Tet Offensive, which led to the end of the war and our withdrawal. This would be kind of like our operation, like the beginning of an Operation Rolling Thunder in Iran, which I think if we do this isn't going to be the beginning of the end of the war, but the beginning of the war.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because Iran has repeatedly said, on top of their like AI commercials and cartoons making fun of Trump and the fact that he's a pedophile, they're basically like, they're wanting us to invade.
Yeah,
They're encouraging us to invade. And a lot of people out there that are listening to this may not know that, but they are. Like they're telling us to fucking invade. They're like saying, send ground forces, send them in.
Yeah, I heard that they had, it was one of their generals saying, like, we're ready for it. We have 1 million ground troops ready and, like,
Dude, there's
waiting.
95
So,
million people in that country.
yeah.
It's
a
3
big country.
times, it's larger than 3 times the size of Iraq. I mean, it's huge. It's a huge country. It's a geographic nightmare. But here's the 4 points for the final blow, the crushing show of force that would force an end to this war. Number 1, seizing strategic islands. Goal number 1. Plans include the invasion or blockade of Karg Island, which we've talked about numerous times, Iran's primary oil export hub, as well as Kirkuk and Abu Musa Islands, which are critical for controlling the Strait of Hormuz. If soldiers or Marines are on these islands indefinitely, and they're sitting there, dude, anybody that has Telegram and has been watching the Ukraine war over the last 5 years, like these soldiers, first of all, there's hardly any cover and concealment there. They're going to be sitting there. They're going to be getting drone after drone after $20,000 drone after $20,000 drone. And then, God forbid, they get some hypersonic missiles. They have no, dude. What are you gonna, you're going to hang out there? This is what you're going to, so old school boot camp shit is you're building foxholes. You're digging in foxholes. Okay. Basically, it's like trench warfare, right? So you take out an E-tool, you dig out a foxhole with intersecting fire. This is so fucking retarded. This is so retarded and out of date, dude. This is so retarded and out of date. Because I don't know what else you're gonna do. Like you're gonna dig in foxholes. So if you're like these Marines that are showing up in like pretty much within the next 24 to 48 hours, or the 82nd Airborne, which I think they're going to be doing. I think if the 82nd Airborne, they're going to combine with some tiered units to do a different number on this, because there's 4 numbers on this plan, but we'll go into that in a minute. So you dig out basically a human-sized foxhole, 2 of you and your boy, you have intersecting fire like this. The fucking guys next to you have intersecting fire. The guys next to you on this side have intersecting fire. And so basically, right, theoretically, you have crossing fire. Like, and it sounds fucking great if you're in World War I. Sounds great.
Right.
If you're in World War I. Sounds awesome. That's not what they're going to be. Like, the Iranians aren't going to assault these islands. They're going to bombard them with missiles and drones. That's what's going to happen. Missile and drone bombardments. If you have Telegram, take a look at Ukraine. Okay, that's because you can get Telegram and you can look at Ukraine and you can see people die every single day in the Ukraine-Russian war, the exact same way. Okay, number 2, massive bombing campaign, a large-scale airstrike aimed at obliterating remaining military and energy infrastructure. Obliterating military and infrastructure. First of all, I think we don't really have a fucking clue what's in those mountains. Number 1. Number 2. The energy infrastructure is a war crime. That's a war crime. Because now you're talking about the civilian population. Okay. Number 3, ground operations. This is straight from the Pentagon, bro. Final blow. Ground operations. Number 3. Operations include deploying thousands of American ground troops to secure enriched uranium at ruined nuclear facilities. So you're really talking about Operation Midnight Hammer, right? Operation Midnight Hammer, which would really mean this is an airborne assault. It would have to be an airborne assault, because you would have to put these troops in where Operation Midnight Hammer probably sent all those bunker busters, right, to destroy the nuclear facilities that are now under tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of rubble. The one thing the 82nd Airborne doesn't do, and the 75th Ranger Regiment doesn't do, and any other tiered element out there doesn't do, is they're not fucking miners. You're not digging out a mile of rubble and rock and stone and dirt to find uranium, bro. And on top of that, you don't think the Iranians, like, they know where Operation Midnight Hammer was hitting their nuclear facilities. You don't think they have a shit ton of dudes sitting in the mountains up there waiting for a motherfuckers to come jumping in at 600 feet, static line jumps, in the middle of the night, they're going to be shooting these dudes out of the sky, bro. They're going to be shooting their parachutes out from right over the fucking top of them. If there's no other way they're going to get in there besides jumping in.
Right.
Unless you're launching a massive, massive land assault. And in that case, it's not a surprise anymore. The only way you're going to surprise the Iranians, air fingers quote, surprise, is if anything's surprising anymore, is if you jump them in. That's it, man. And when you're doing a combat jump, when we do training jumps, we're doing it 1,200 feet. Training jumps at static line jumps, 1,200 feet. It gives you time to pull a reserve. Okay. If you're doing a combat jump, you're jumping probably around from 500 to 700 feet. I mean, you're basically, by the time your chute opens, you're hitting the fucking ground. You don't even have time to pull a reserve if something bad happens. You don't. Like by the time you realize something's wrong, you're a dirt dart. Simple as that. Those are combat jumps. Entirely different. And it's like, they're going to be like, you really think they're not going to have fucking anti-aircraft shit sitting there waiting? They're not going to have small arms fire sitting there waiting? You could have a 12-year-old kid there with a 22 Ruger, semi-automatic 22 Ruger, that would be shooting up parachutes left and right and turning guys into dirt darts. 100%. Here's number 4, maritime blockade. Seizing or blocking ships exporting Iranian oil to cut off the regime's remaining revenue. Now remind me, Joel, isn't Iranian oil getting out to China and Russia already?
Yeah,
at like record profits?
at record profits because the sanctions got moved off it. So we started a war, removed sanctions off a while, so they're making the most money they have, and it's still the Strait of Hormuz is open to their allies, not ours. You know, and that's the whole. Yeah, this makes no fucking sense. No sense at all.
Dude, that is, when I look at this,
Well, and just like
I
you're
see a
talking
lot
about,
of dead American soldiers and Marines, dude, because I mean, I hate to say this as like a veteran of the last war, kind of like discount my own experiences in a way. But it's like, dude, if my kid's fighting this war and it ends up being the next Vietnam, like I said, they're going to look at me and they're going to be like, Dad, you just fought booger eaters. Like, this is a real no bullshit, serious consequence, high mortality rate war I see coming up. If we put boots on the ground in this shit and we execute this little 4-point plan of theirs, seizing strategic islands, massive bombing campaign, ground operations, number 3, which would actually probably involve an airborne operation, really. That's the only way that could really happen. And maritime blockade. And tomorrow, I think, is the end of the deadline, dude. I think tomorrow is the end of the 5 days. And the Iranians they immediately said, go fuck yourself. Immediately. They didn't need 5 days.
I saw one thing that Trump might have extended it to 10 days, so it would be, but I still think some of that is manipulation of the stock market because that would mean Tuesday, I think. But I'm not sure. I just saw that once, so I'm not going to say it's for sure. But there was, I think it was in the same press conference that I was talking about just a second ago. And I think, too, there's a couple things.
How do you get out of this shit, man? How do you like there's
you admit that you're fucking
Iran's demands versus our demands? I mean, if Trump concedes to Iran demands, like if he concedes to Iran's demands, which would save tens of thousands of American lives, I believe, militarily.
And millions
I think Trump would 100% sacrifice 10,000 American soldiers to save face. 100% believe that he would. Right?
I agree. Well, and the beginning of this, when boots on the ground were mentioned, you know, like they were real hush hush and they wouldn't denounce it, but they didn't want to say that that was a plan. And then we're 3 weeks into this war, and now it's already talking about like this is phase 3 of that, you know, and we're the 82nd Airborne, you know, like and just talking about war crimes, like you said, if we're going to start hitting infrastructures that are for civilian populations, that's a war crime. Israel has been dropping fucking white phosphorus missiles on Lebanon, That's a war crime. And speaking of white phosphorus, this is something that I find is just, when you speculate, follow the fucking money. And so, one of the byproducts from glyphosate, and glyphosate is a pesticide that we spray on our food in America. And it comes from Bayer and Monsanto. Those two are joined as one company right now. And Bayer used to be a Israel company that was bought by Germany, a German company in 2018. But going back to the glyphosate, white phosphorus is a byproduct of making um, glyphosate. And Trump, in his last set of executive orders, um, essentially made it so. And just some background on this too. Bayer just got sued. Bayer and Monsanto just got sued and settled for a $7.2 billion lawsuit for glyphosate causing Hodgkin's lymphoma. So they've already been sued for this. It's known that this pesticide causes cancer, and this is what Trump just did. So this is coming from Sean Ryan's podcast, and any of you out there who don't know who Sean Ryan is, I highly recommend highly recommend his podcast. He leans conservative, definitely, but he's not scared to have anybody on his podcast. He's had Republicans, Democrats. I highly
He had
recommend.
Hunter Biden on there. And
Yeah,
it
he
was a
had Hunter
fantastic
Biden.
podcast too. I actually learned a lot from that one. I'm glad I listened
Well,
to it, you know?
and it makes you see how these things are slanted when you're in a sphere of getting an algorithm that's shoving something down your throat. Like, there's two sides of every story, and Sean Ryan is one of those people where he'll call out a Republican or a Democrat if he thinks they're lying, or if he won't run an episode if he finds out something that they said in it. Like, he's a good person, and I highly recommend his show. But this is
I'll tell you what, really quick before you play that. So what I appreciate about Sean Ryan is my wife will tell me, like, I have a tendency to swear a lot, and she'll be like, "Hey, like, we listen to Sean Ryan all the time, and when he gets really pissed off about something, it's just F-bomb here, F-bomb there, motherfuck here." It's constant.
yeah,
Remember he was talking about pedophiles? And he's
yeah,
like, "You hear that, motherfuckers out there? The motherfucking United States is fucking run by fucking pedophiles. That's it."
yep, I
But he
dig it,
interviewed
man.
Trump, he interviewed all these people, man. Like, I
Yeah,
guarantee you outside of the interview, they had personal conversations,
yeah,
which
and
means
what I
that JD Vance, Trump, Tulsi Gabbard, like all these people that he's talking about that he's interviewed lied to his face. Lied to his
and
face about what the outcomes were going to be with this administration.
and he's one of the realest motherfucker out there because he calls out any of them.
Any of them.
And whether it's, and I yeah, if you like our podcast, please go check out Sean Ryan's. It's way better produced and way better than ours. But
100%.
yeah, I highly recommend it. But this is coming from, he was interviewing a guy who's running in Iowa for the Republican Congress position. I'm not sure what position, but he's running it in Iowa for that position. And this guy is pretty passionate about what we spray on our foods. And this is coming from that podcast.
18th of February, invoking the Defense Production Act to boost domestic glyphosate production, critical to national security. Bayer is the only domestic producer. EWG President Ken Cook, in quotes, Trump just gave Bayer a license to poison people, full stop. RFK Jr., who won a $289 million verdict against Monsanto, endorsed the order, claiming it's about national security. This is a map of the highest concentrated states of glyphosate. Guess what number one is? Iowa. What states have the highest concentration of cancer? Guess what state that is? Iowa. In 2025 alone, 618,000 people died of cancer in the United States. RFK.
And this is one of those. So not only did he make an executive order that said we are going to actually produce more glyphosate, and a lot of that is tied to the war and white phosphorus. In the negotiations of talking with
Who used white phosphorus again? Who used white phosphorus in Lebanon against civilians and neighborhoods again? Who was
Israel,
it?
Israel.
yeah.
And just for our viewers out there, tell them what white phosphorus does again, Ty.
White
Like,
phosphorus is an incendiary, and when it gets on you, there's basically no way to get it off. It'll burn completely through you. If you try to use water or something else, it makes it worse. I believe there's fumes associated with it that screw up your brain. It actually breaks the blood brain barrier. It'll create like lockjaw. It creates like a TBI kind of effect, but worse in your brain. On top of just having severe burns that you cannot manipulate. Really, I mean, you kind of have to
well,
just suffer through it and hope it isn't bad enough to not just disfigure you, because it's going to do that, but kill you. Yeah. And it's
and just
completely illegal, and it was illegal because of the Vietnam War.
and it's used in a couple other things like flares and other stuff, but it's also
It burns for a
um
long time, man. It burns
yeah.
for a long time. Mhm.
And it's kind of fucked up that Bayer, a huge pharmaceutical company, Monsanto, one of the companies that has the biggest chokehold on our food industry, is making fucking weapons of war. Like, just think of, like, just listen to what I just said, you know? And in this whole deal that they made with Trump, they said, hey, it would be a lot easier if we weren't getting sued all the time. So Trump also essentially gave them a pardon from being prosecuted or sued for any, whether whether the white phosphorus is used on war crimes or poisoning humans on our own soil. And they also, like I said, follow the money, donated $50 million to his 2004 campaign, you
Yep.
know? And it's just,
It's not just the MAGA movement that's dead, dude. The Maha movement's dead too.
yeah,
Remember when RFK Jr., when Donald Trump bought all the like the Pfizer CEOs, I think it was Pfizer and some other, maybe Johnson and Johnson and Pfizer. Like,
right.
he's cozied up to a lot of the pharmaceutical companies since he got back into office. And if a lot of people don't remember, like the lockdown started with Trump. The masking started with Trump. The lockdown started with Trump. The vaccine started with Trump. And it's kind of like how Epstein died under Trump, right? So people
Yeah.
forget that that Epstein was killed under Trump. It wasn't under
And that,
Biden. It was under Trump. It's just like the start of COVID with all those COVID regs was under Trump. And this reminds me of something else. Put a pin in it. Don't forget what you were going to say. Like, I just want to say, like, this thing with the right phosphorus and the bear thing and the cancer and how cancer is killing so many Americans, and cancer is a huge problem in our society. It reminds me of the double dipping from the opioid crisis
no,
that we were just
exactly.
talking about, right? Last episode. Because in 2001, Afghanistan didn't produce, they weren't even on the list graphically for international producers of opium, poppy seeds, which can go into opium, heroin, other stuff. Obviously, it goes into painkillers here in the United States, like Percocet, Vicodin, which started the opioid epidemic here. And we were double dipping, just like they were double dipping with Bayer, what he's talking about with that, and gives them fucking immunity, just like how the pharmaceutical companies have immunity for killing tens of thousands of people through a lot of their different drugs, and they don't have any financial culpability to it. And it's like, so in 2001, from 2002, Afghanistan went from being the lowest producer of opium, or I should say poppy seeds, really, because that leads to a lot of different things, to 2002 being the number one in the world for 15 years. And at the same time, the United States was experiencing the opioid crisis, because we were dabbling in that and bringing all that stuff over to the United States and then using it on our people. And all these people got addicted to all that shit, especially veterans. I remember going to the VA and having a doctor offering me an open prescription in 2007 when I got out of the Army. I've never talked to you about this. I went to Helena to a VA clinic there just for an initial physical examination after I got out of the Army. And I was kind of in between. I was going right to work for Blackwater, basically. And when I was leaving that physical, the doctor at the VA, I was literally opening the door to leave. And he's like, hey, Ty. And I turn around and he's like, hey, man, you want like an open script for like Vicodin, Percocet, Tylenol 3? He's like, do you have a preference? I'm like, do I have a preference? I was like, I don't think I have I was like 27. I was like, I don't think I have a
Dude,
preference. I mean,
even
yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was 16, 15, 16, This is my sophomore year in high school, and I broke the vehicular in my wrist, and it's a bone underneath your thumb that only gets blood supply from one side. And I'm stubborn as fuck. I broke it, I casted it, I went and did some shit. 8 months later, my wrist is clicking. I'm like,
Yeah.
huh. I go to the doctor. They're like, well, you're probably going to have to get surgery. You're going to need to get a pin. And they put me on low dose Oxycontin for about 6 months. And I was at the age where I was partying a little bit. So I would save up, like 2 or 3 and take them at once. And I
Right.
was kind of enjoying it in the beginning. I was young, as a drug party. And I kind of stopped. I was like, I'm tired of feeling dumpy. I had no fucking, I was a pale face, sunken eyes. And I was just like, I'm tired of feeling dumpy. And I went into the doctor and I wasn't in pain anymore. I wasn't in pain for, you know, I could have been 1 month of it and they could have been like, all right, no more, and, um, I stopped doing it and no one told me about like withdrawals you get from, I almost fucking killed myself over some like petty girl fucking not liking me bullshit, but it was a direct result of me just pulling the trigger and no one saying like, hey, you've been taking these every day for 6 months. Your body and brain have some sort of dependency on this. And when you stop, you're probably going to get depressed and go through some shit, and there was none of that, like I was literally probably 45 seconds from fucking putting a 30-30 fucking rifle in my mouth, like,
Dude, it's a
and
good
and
thing you
that and
got a
that
hold of yourself, man, because
well, and
yeah,
it made me look at that shit a lot different because the next year I wrote a paper on Utopia, the book that Thomas More wrote, and it's kind of based on like what a utopia was. And my thought is there could never be a utopia because humans have too many crutches, whether it's religion, whether it's like we always need a crutch, and these crutches are the things that like make us divisive and stuff. And it was also a 19-year-old head trying to construct like a thought. So I'm not
sure.
saying it was a award-winning paper. But in that
I'm sure it
process,
was good, dude.
I learned about what happens in your brain when like you do an opiate and and I was like, oh, that all makes sense because my baseline isn't like a depressed person, but like I was in a really, really dark fucking place for a period of time and I had no reason why. Like I like I remember like going and crying like in the fucking locker room because my buddy said something funny that I didn't think was funny. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? And it was one of those things where like after that day I had a totally different view on pharmaceuticals, you know?
Dude, I'm glad you got a hold of yourself, man, because usually the outcome that's associated with that, especially when they started pulling those pills from guys and guys got seriously addicted. I know a lot of veterans. I don't know personally. I know a few guys that did, but I know there's a story for sure. It could have been me because I didn't take that open script. I was
Right.
deploying anyway, and I just kind of I didn't really think about it that way, and I just didn't do it. But I'm glad I didn't because I'm not really sure how I would have handled it. You know, I don't feel like I have addictive
Right.
personality, but I think everybody kind of feels that way about themselves. And so, but like the natural progression was heroin. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
guys would as soon as those pills were just pulled like cold, they would pull like guys were taking, like 5 or 6 pills at least a day, and then they're just pull it from 'em cold, and then they'd go on the streets and they'd buy heroin, man, because it's like the
Right.
closest it's kinda like a happy pill, you know what I mean? Like, I just had a massive knee surgery, and, like, I understand what Percocet and everything is, and I had a big knee surgery when I was in the Army too that I didn't recover from really well, and which led to this one, but it's like, I know what those pills are happy pills, dude. They make you feel good, they make you happy, like,
Right.
big time. And the United States, just like with the white sulfurous stuff, just the financial aspects, right?
Right.
You're double dipping and then you're giving them immunity. And it's like the United States was doing the same thing with the pharmaceutical industry. It was double dipping through the heroin production in Afghanistan. And then it was double dipping through incarcerating our own citizens from using that shit here in the United States. And then it was giving the goddamn companies that were producing it fucking immunity for producing it.
Well, and then it's a pharmaceutical company that creates cures for cancer when they're fucking tied to a company that causes cancer. Like, how fucking batshit crazy is that? Like, you shouldn't be able to make drugs if you're a company that is tied to a company that sprays food and causes cancer. Like, those, they shouldn't have the same CEO. They shouldn't be in the same fucking sphere. Like, it's
Right.
so fucking bonkers to me, dude.
It's crazy stuff, man. It's crazy stuff. Real quick before we get off, I kind of want to make a little connection here, because when I look at these points, right? The final blow, you know, the 4-point final blow, seizing strategic islands, massive bombing campaign, ground operations, maritime blockade, which includes boots on the ground, probably an airborne operation. When I say airborne operation, I mean like jumping troops in. It reminds me a lot of the Tet Offensive in Vietnam. And I kind of want to say this because, you know, a lot of people know that Vietnam War, we talked about it a lot in the last episode, just kind of the human element of the Vietnam War and like what that does to a man or even a woman that would see that kind of stuff. And before the Tet Offensive in 1968, there was Operation Rolling Thunder. And Operation Rolling Thunder took place from, like, if you don't know about this, it might behoove you to read on it a little bit if you're out there. It's an interesting, because there is a comparison here with what I see happening now. So Operation Rolling Thunder was like, took place from like 65 to 68, and it was a sustained kind of like gradual air like bombing campaign against the North Vietnamese in the war. And it was like designed to just like how they're talking about right now, right? We're destroying their navy, we're destroying their air force, we're destroying all their bases. They have no capabilities left. We're killing hundreds of thousands of their troops. This was everything. Like, if you lived in that time and you remember that, you know, if I talk to my mom, she might remember this and be like, yeah, like the major news in ABC, NBC, CBS were perpetually talking about how the United States was overwhelming the VC, the Vietnamese, like through this, through Operation Rolling Thunder, which was a 3-year bombardment. And like, they were talking about all these bases being annihilated, and they were destroying all the infrastructure, and they were destroying all their cultivation and stuff that they could sell, right, to fund their operations for the VC. And, you know, obviously on top of that, just the regular infantry, the Viet Cong that they were fighting against. And it's like that led directly to the Tet Offensive, which took place in 1968, which was like a surprise attack from the VC that came down. And they just, I mean, dude, they just, it was a hell of an offensive. It basically led to the American withdrawal and kind of the end of the Vietnam War. You know what I mean? They came down there and they destroyed just a ton of bases. There was brutal fighting. And it was really, really gnarly. And they overtook the American embassy in like South Vietnam, all kinds of stuff. And then it was embarrassing. You know what I mean? Because now all these people that were reporting for 3 years that this bombing campaign, this massive bombing campaign through Operation Rolling Thunder was succeeding. And the American population was like, oh, fuck, we're winning the war. We're doing good. We're killing a shit ton of VC. And then there was the Tet Offensive. And it was like all this stuff that they thought that the Americans thought that they were doing, like, wasn't working at all, because the VC were doing what? They were buried in the mountains. They're buried in the mountains of Vietnam, North Vietnam, which is like a goddamn 16th the size of Iran. Like, because you look at Vietnam, you have North Vietnam and you have South Vietnam, right? And so when people like put the Vietnam map over Iran, it's like, that's great, but you can kind of cut half of that shit off. Because we weren't doing a whole lot of fighting in South Vietnam.
Right.
We were doing a lot of fighting up north, and the SOG elements were going into like Laos and Cambodia too. You know what I mean? Like outside of the bonds of legality with that, but it didn't fucking matter. It was part of the war. It was like us. We went to Pakistan a whole bunch of times when I was in Afghanistan. We weren't supposed to be in Pakistan, but we fucking were. And I definitely was as a contractor a lot. And so it's like the outcomes, I'm seeing similarities here. It's an interesting similarity because you're having the same verbiage, you're having the same attacks, you're having the same bombing, you're having the same reporters and like mass media saying the same outcomes are taking place. You have presidents saying that the war is over, just like Lyndon Johnson kind of did with Vietnam, like during that time, right? And then the Tet Offensive happened, and all of a sudden America was like, what the fuck is happening? And we lost a shit ton of people, a shit ton of ground, our embassy and everything else. And then we started withdrawing troops and coming back to the end of the war, you know? And so it was like, I just see, like, when I see the comparison between Vietnam and Operation Rolling Thunder and like what we're kind of seeing now on top of that other stuff, is like, so US troops are working remotely right now because the bases in the region are uninhabitable because they've been pretty much destroyed. Okay. And they're living in fucking hotels with civilians, which now makes it that's a target, dude. If you're the United States military,
Right.
you have to understand that you are a target. It's not illegal to kill you, right? You're not a civilian. If you're wearing a uniform, dude, you can be targeted in a fucking war. And so all these American soldiers and Navy personnel that are now living in hotels because their bases have been destroyed, they're living in hotels with civilians. And now these hotels are targets. And so you got that.
Well,
You got an aircraft carrier that was like, that is going back in to be fixed. It's going to take 2 years to repair this goddamn aircraft carrier. 2 years. And it's because of a laundry fire. I don't know if, I think there might be a lot more to the story on that one. We're running super low on munitions and weapon systems and especially interceptors. And we have the president and we have mass media. Because, I mean, when you look at like mass media, forget about podcasts and what we're saying, because podcasters and what we're saying versus mass media are two completely different things. But you have mass media like CNN, like, I mean, Bill Maher can't wait to suck off this war. It's just like his favorite thing in the fucking world. It's just like Hillary Clinton.
right.
Hillary Clinton loves Trump now because of this shit. Bill Maher loves Trump now because of this shit. And so it's like, I see this and I'm like, you know, history repeating itself. And I'm like, man, you know, that was kind of the end of the Vietnam War, but I'm seeing this as like the opposite of that. I think if we implement that 4-point plan, that's the final blow plan, it's going to leave us, if it goes bad, and I don't know how it would go good. Hopefully it does. But if it doesn't go good, I think it catapults us forward rather than having us retreat. That's what I think. You know what I
Well,
mean?
and you're not the only person who thought that. I mean, General Mattis, who was in Trump's former Secretary of Defense,
Mad
I
Dog
think in his
Mattis,
first,
baby.
yeah,
Mhm.
Mad Dog Mattis, who everybody was super stoked when Trump appointed him. Then all of a sudden Trump turned on him, and then the megasphere kind of turned on him. But Mad Dog was saying, like, we've seen unstrategic bombing campaigns in the past, and they don't work. All you do is waste your munitions. Like, if you're just dropping bombs and they're not strategically whatever. If they're not
Strategically
done within, yes,
placed.
thank you, Ty. If
Mhm.
they're not done like that, like, you're just wasting ammunition. And I also think with,
And a shit ton
like,
of money.
Iran has been building tunnels in those mountains for years, and that's what I don't think people
Dude, there's
understand.
tunnels in
Like,
those
they're,
mountains that go back thousands.
yes, and that's,
Thousands
and
of years. We're talking about the Persian Empire here, and a lot of people
yeah,
don't realize this
biblical
too.
times.
Yeah, the Persians were called the Persians on the outside. The Persians always called themselves Iranians, for those of you that may not know about this. The Persians were called the Persians by like the Greeks and the Macedonians and like Genghis Khan, and like those people would call them the Persians, but the Persian Empire called themselves Iranians. They've been calling themselves Iranian for thousands and thousands of years. There's thousands and thousands of years, no shit, of military stuff in those mountains.
Yeah, and I think too, like, you every now and again you'll see an American Iranian who is like in for this, and someone made a good point, and it was a Iranian and who was not for this war, and he's like, he goes, the most of the people who are in America from Iran are there, like, they haven't been part of this. They're talking from something that they saw 20 years ago, you know, like, not saying that everything that was going on in Iran was good, you know, but he goes, a lot of them are like, they see the painting of 1978, like the first big Iran movement, you know, or that, not the first, but the second influx when they got their new leader. And
Dude,
that's
it's
when there
been
was a,
60 years of bad. It's been 60
yeah,
years of bad because it was in 1953 we toppled their democratically elected Mossadegh because of British Petroleum. It's been 60 years since then. It's a perpetual shit.
Well, in the best case scenario is this turns out more like Afghanistan than it did Iraq, and that's the best case scenario, which
I
is
don't,
still
dude. I don't see that in a million.
fucking.
Yeah.
I know, I agree, I
Well,
agree. And that's still a really shitty fucking scenario.
and that's absolutely the best case scenario. But the difference between like, and I have to be honest with myself in my own war on this. The only similarity I see really would between like Iraq, or not Iraq, but Afghanistan and Iran is the mountainous terrain, right? Because the
Right,
mountainous terrain is formidable. You lose your assets. We carry a shit ton more poundage on us than they do. So if you get into a gunfight with these guys and there's 12 of you and there's, 7 of them or 20 of them and they're in fucking basically in man jammas and AKs with a plate, with not even a plate carrier, but like a vest. And, and we're running 150 pounds of gear. I mean, you know what I'm
right,
saying? They'll run circles around you up there. Plus they know the country. They know the country. It's their
right,
backyard. That's as close as I see the similarities, because when I look at Iran, it not only is it like wildly larger than Afghanistan, which also makes it
right.
wildly more mountainous. It gives them 1,000 times more places to hide, 1,000 times more like weapons facilities buried in these deep mountain bunkers, and then on top of that, the personnel. It's like
Yeah,
we were
yeah,
fighting a
yeah.
lot of tribal elements, and a lot of them were like they'd run back and forth between Pakistan and Afghanistan. They kind of hit and run. We get hit, and then we could be in hot pursuit, like a mile into Pakistan, maybe calling an airstrike, get into something a little bit, but we couldn't go really any further past that. And it was a lot of hit and run shit, and it wasn't like mass assaults on their end. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
And there's a few of those, but not much. And dude, I see that total. Like when I look at Iran, dude, I see like in my mind's eye, I think that it is so much worse. Like
yeah.
1,000 times. There's way more manpower. There's way more weaponry. There's way more weapon systems you're dealing with. You're dealing with the same elevation. You're dealing with the same geography as you are in Afghanistan, which is a bitch.
Well,
And
le
yeah, go ahead.
logistically, yeah, I agree. Logistically, it's nothing like it. I'm saying outcome as far as American lives lost and money spent.
Oh, I
Like
think we lose
it's
way more American
no, I
lives.
agree.
Yeah,
I agree. That's what I'm saying. Afghanistan is the best case scenario,
best
but
case. Yep,
it's
for sure.
looking a
Yeah,
lot
I
more
agree with that. Now I see what you're saying. Now, yep,
it's looking a lot
yep.
more like it's going to be like Iraq or Vietnam, unfortunately. And
I
let's
think
cross
it's a
our
lot
fingers that
closer to
it's not.
Vietnam. I think Iraq and Afghanistan are comparable, right? You're talking 1,500 probably ish death difference in death. American death rates anyway,
Right.
which is comparable. In a big war that lasts like 20 years. But when I look at Iran, dude, and Iran's capabilities, especially what they're showing us right now, the fact that they're just causing massive amounts of destruction all over the Middle East, and like Tel Aviv is just getting hosed, Israel is just getting hosed. And they're now switching over to more. Everybody's like, oh, they're shooting like 80% less weapon systems now than they were before. It's like, yeah, dude, that's because they're switching over to hypersonic. They're switching. That's because Israel's used up like almost all their interceptors and everything. Now they're switching over to their fucking good shit. They were using drones
And,
and all this cluster stuff. So Israel would use up all their goddamn interceptors on bullshit weapon systems coming across. And now they're going to start using their fucking expensive Chinese, Russian produced munition systems, hypersonics that like, listen, even with that other stuff, you couldn't stop hypersonic
and,
anyway,
and,
even
and you
with the Iron
and,
Dome.
and you don't think they're not waiting for our military to
They're
invade
asking for
these
us to
islands?
invade.
Yeah.
They're
And,
asking
and they're
for us to
waiting
invade.
and they're waiting for our military to fucking invade these islands when they're going to be sitting ducks and they're going to fucking bomb the shit out of them, dude. Like,
Dude, the island,
I
yeah, the
mean,
island
that's what I see
inhabitation thing, dude.
happening.
Like, here's the thing, like, there's like based on this plan, this 4-point plan, island and habitation number one. And here's the deal too. Like, how do you get to what is it? Karg Island? Karg Island. How do you get to Karg Island? Because you got to go through the Strait of Bermuda, which is a choke point.
Right.
How in the fuck is any American carrier or any float where there's a shit ton of Marines on a float gonna get through the fucking Strait of Bermuda to get to Cargo Island, dude? They're not making it through the Strait of Bermuda, homie. Like I may be wrong about that, but I don't think they're making it through the Strait of Bermuda because we're all of our carriers and all of our ships and stuff are so far the fuck out in the sea that we're literally so far out that we have to refuel our jets.
Right.
Because they're so far out that they won't make it back on their bombing runs because we know that our carriers will get fucking hit by ballistic missiles. How the fuck are we getting through the Strait of Bermuda with 2,500 Marines on a carrier?
Right.
I don't know how that's going to happen. I really don't. And when I think about like the Operation Midnight Hammer, like we're going to go in there and we're going to see, what is it? The ground operations where they're going to get the uranium, the rich uranium from when Midnight Hammer hit.
Right.
That's an airborne operation. That's a fucking just as much of a disaster, probably, as going through the Strait of Hormuz is on a carrier. I'll tell you right now, if I was in a 17 and I knew I was about ready to do a combat jump, they're probably about 500 feet because they're going to jump you from fucking as low as they possibly. They're going to basically be like, that chute's going to open and your ass is going to hit the ground when that chute opens. Okay. That's how low they're going to jump you from. Because they're going to want to be in and out so fucking fast. They're going to want to get you on the ground so quick. And it's like, dude, the pucker factor of knowing you're about ready to jump into that shit, I guarantee there's going to be anti-aircraft coming through that fucking rig while they're waiting to jump. Like I see a World War II style combat jump. That's what I see. Right. When you think about the World War II, like, what is it, brother? The fucking Band of Brothers, remember? And they were like the 101st Airborne back when they were still an airborne. 101st isn't airborne anymore. But back when they were airborne in World War II, and you would like watch that show, and it was like there was all that anti-aircraft going through all those rigs while they were jumping, while they were doing their combat jumps. Dude, yeah. That's what I see. Like that's in my mind. Because we did combat jumps in Afghanistan and stuff, and it was like it wasn't there'd been a little bit of fire for some of those guys and stuff, you know. But when I think about Iran and doing a combat jump into where their nuclear facility was, when they've been hearing about this for a long time, I'm thinking Band of Brothers World War II combat jump into that's what I'm thinking. Like that's what goes in my mind. You know what I mean? And it's like, dude, the pucker factor associated with that, those boys are going to have more stories than I ever had. I'll tell you that right now. Like you make it through that combat jump, dude, and you somehow like make it through this war and shit, like it's gonna make my war look like fucking child's play. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, let's hope not. Maybe everyone's bluffing and we're all running out of missiles and no one was really ready for this. Maybe that would be the best case scenario. We just have
a president that's got enough self-confidence to just be like, we're out, and we don't have that. Maybe we do. Maybe he will. But I think his one-upmanship just won't allow it. I just don't think it will. You know?
Too much ego.
I think him watching AI cartoon videos of Lego people depicting him and Benjamin Netanyahu, he's willing to kill 10,000 American soldiers just to fucking write that. I bet you he'd be willing to do that just to kill the son of a bitch that came up with those fucking AI videos making fun of him. I can almost guarantee you he'd be like, 10,000 troops sounds good. We can sacrifice that. Make sure that son of a bitch is dead.
Right. Fucking A.
All right, dude. You got anything else? We're an hour and a half in, homie.
No, I'm good, man.
All right, brother. I love you, man. Good one. And hopefully on Monday we're not talking about a ground invasion. We'll see.
Yeah, I really hope not. If we're doing boots on the ground for this, it's fucking ridiculous. So crazy.
Dude, I hope not, bro. Listen, we're not sitting here advocating for this stuff. This is what based on my training and experience. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we're all wrong. I really do. Love you, dude. We'll talk to you soon.
Peace, brother. Take it easy, man.